Call to the community to help identify the killer of Sandra Long. Hello, I'm Kelly Lynn, and this is Comcast Newsmakers. Joining me at this hour is Phyllis Dawkins. She is the sister of Sandra Long. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your sister.
My sister Sandy was very considerate. She loved people. Her job that she took care of people, and she went above and beyond the call of duty when it came to her job. Very conscientious of things. She was also full of laughter, just fun to be around. We kind of look forward to when we had things at the house, that her being there, because she was sort of like the life of the party of our events that we had.
On November 30th, 2010, things took a terrible turn. What happened that day?
November 30th, I was at work and I received, numerous of phone calls that Sandy had not shown up for work. I thought nothing of it. I said, well, maybe, she, kind of got sidetracked, or someone called her or whatever. And, she was taking care of some other things. But when I kept getting the phone calls and time were getting to be later and later, then I start to worry. That wasn't like Sandy. Particularly for work, she was on time. So when she didn't show up after hours, then I knew that something, had happened outside of, her just, being diverted elsewhere.
Sandy's body was found in her car in a nearby park.
Mm-hmm.
What did police find when they saw her vehicle?
I was leaving work. Which my work is basically like a few, probably a mile and a half from where it actually happened, and I drove past because I, after work, went to Sandy's house, and that's where the kids were. I went to Sandy's house, and as I was driving by the park, there were officers, alongside the road. But when I got to Sandy's house, there were, state police officers, and we were actually being interviewed, like in the car. And one of my questions were to the officer, what's happening at the park? I see all the cars there, but was given, something other than that was, her that was there. Later finding out that was her in the car, and at that point, basically losing it.
She was the victim of blunt force trauma, and police believe that she was murdered by someone she knew. Who do you think would have done something like this to your sister?
I couldn't fathom anyone, doing such a brutal thing to Sandy, because Sandy was a person that she wouldn't hurt a fly. She, like I said, she gave. She didn't take. She was one that would take the shirt off of her back to help you. So to find out, that was her in the car, and the family, none of us could believe that, such a horrific, thing could happen to her, because she was just a person that you would never have dreamt of that she had, any enemies.
The family has since raised money to help in identifying the person who did this. You've raised $5,000 in reward money. The police are also offering an additional $1,000. And you have a phone number that people can call. They can call 301-653-5449 if they would like to donate money to the fund.
Exactly.
Or they can contact Maryland State Police.
On November 30th, 2010, Sandra Long was leaving her driveway. She's an employee with ARC at the time, and ARC is she was actually working for ARC in Calvert County. She was on her way to pick up a client. Sandy has 2 children and a husband. One child was home at the time that she left. She left and checked in with ARC, basically was heading toward picking up her client and never showed to pick up the client. She was about 5 miles away from that location. She never showed. She was late, so they started calling around. The client's parent called around and couldn't get an answer, couldn't make any contact with her. So various friends and family were contacted. They never did contact Sandy. She never called anybody to let them know where she was. So during the day, the family called the state police, the sheriff's office, asking them to check different areas because she had come up missing. At some point, about 2:30 in the afternoon that same day, some hunters were pulling into a parking lot right near Calvert Cliffs State Park, right off of Camp Canoy Road and H.G. Truman. And they found Sandra's car, which is a silver-colored Ford Focus, and they found Sandra Long inside the car, called police, and the investigation began because she was in the car, deceased, and it was a result of a homicide.
How was she killed?
It was a blunt force trauma homicide, and we feel like it was probably a crime of passion. She had some extensive injuries, and the homicide unit was called. We worked extensively on interviewing family and friends and coworkers and anyone that she had any kind of relationship with. We had DNA evidence from the car once the crime scene was conducted. We have fingerprint evidence from the car. That evidence has been placed in at the crime lab, and anytime we find anybody else or we find a person of interest, we ask for their DNA and their fingerprints. Most people have been cooperative, and we have tried to compare that evidence to their DNA and fingerprints, and thus far, we haven't come up with any matches.
You said that you think this is a person that she knew.
Yes.
Any other information you've been able to piece together about the killer?
Other than the fact that I think that this person was very close to her, and maybe something happened where she just didn't want them that close, and we know that this person, after he killed Sandy, drove the car to that spot, to that location. That's what we think, just from looking at the evidence. Her seatbelt was cut, she was moved over, and it looked like somebody had driven the car.